This is Still Figuring Tech Out.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Still Figuring Tech Out. And we're going to be talking about money and career pressures today. Now, one of the biggest pressures people entering into tech face constantly is money and career expectations. People are spending on courses, they're spending on certifications, they're spending on labs, and let's not talk about data subscriptions for us in Nigeria. And naturally, we're all asking, or we all asked at some point in our careers, when does this start paying off? Today, we'll be unpacking the real financial expectations in cybersecurity, the myths, the pressures, and how to build a sustainable path. Now, to begin, I feel like I want to hear Joy's opinion on something. And let's start with a question I see a lot from people that are just entering into the field. And that question is, how long do I have to wait before I actually start earning and earning well?
You wait. You wait. I'm still waiting. See, that's the plain truth, basically. Some people get lucky because like due to their connections and everything, which is why networking matters, right? But yeah, some people did like you said before, they are outliers that do this thing for 6 months and they get like a really good role. They get like they negotiate their salary like real fine, real good, right? But for like normal standard in Nigeria, your entry level role is not going to give you the money that you're looking for, the money that they have been selling to you that you'll be earning. That's not going to be it. With your certification, if you have that, or if you had that before you and got your job, like your certification will probably be more than your pay. But just the fact is that you are in, basically, you are in, right? You wait for some people wait for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, anyways, yeah. And people less than that, 6 months, 3 months, but it depends on everybody's different, right? But yeah, you will wait basically.
I think that's a very good point about the timeline. But Josiah, do you think that works across all career paths in cybersecurity and tech? Or this timeline might be dependent on what career path you're trying to take?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think it differs in tech in general because I think cybersecurity, the earning timeline is kind of different. Let's be very honest, because
Yeah.
programmers or even UI UX designers or things like that, I think they get to earn a bit faster, right? And even in cybersecurity, I think I can also argue that the timeline is also kind of different because I've come to realize, and this is like a personal opinion, I think some very technical roles, I think it takes quite some time. I think, for instance, say someone goes into tech sales or cybersecurity sales, right? And, you work to sell like a very, 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 decent cybersecurity product and you earn like a very good commission of it. Say, for instance, and sometimes the ability to sell does not come with experience, right? So, but for more technical roles, they will need you to have like a certain amount of experience.
Yeah.
So it kind of differs. I would say generally with cybersecurity, just reduce your expectation on how fast you would earn.
Reduce
Even
it.
even in cybersecurity, if you're not in the right place, it might not happen as fast. Doesn't mean it won't happen. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, I think I like both of your perspectives. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think what I'm getting from both of you is it will happen, but the timeline differs depending on the career path you're trying to take in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And I think one other thing that people underestimate is how long the skill building phase takes. And one thing I noticed that a lot of beginners, because I work closely with a lot of beginners, one thing they underestimate is how long the skills building phase lasts for. Now, we're saying that you're going to earn, but you also have to be open to the fact that it might not be as soon as you might be thinking. I know everybody's saying, oh, get into cybersecurity, you're going to earn in six figures. We see it all the time. Join my bootcamp, and in 3 months, you're a cybersecurity expert. Those timelines are, I don't want to say there's scam alerts, but let me not just say anything sharp, but just have it in mind that the timeline differs depending on your career path. And this leads us directly to the next question, which is about the cost of learning. One thing beginners are very concerned about, because most people are trying to get into this field to earn a living. Most of them are trying to get into this field to actually pick a career path and grow within this career path. One thing they are concerned about is the cost of learning. So my question is, and this is open to anybody that wants to take this, is cybersecurity, since we're all working in cybersecurity, is it worth the costs of actually learning it? Now, when we're talking about costs, we're talking about the certifications, we're talking about some courses that are not free, we're talking about some labs, some conferences, as well as data. I'm always going to talk about data subscription because we're speaking from the point of view of as Nigerians, and then the data subscription. Do you think, Josiah, that the cost of learning is worth it for cybersecurity?
Short answer, yes.
Long answer.
But the long answer is it will take time, because with cybersecurity, it's first of all, cybersecurity is kind of expensive to get into, if we're being honest, in terms of it's only cybersecurity you seek certifications, for like 0 to 3 years in the industry, and it costs like $500, like probably even up to $1,000, depending on the particular domain in cybersecurity that you're in. So, do I think it is expensive? And the thing with cybersecurity, like we've been hinting at, that if you've not caught on to this, catch on to it now. It takes time for you to really get that money. It's going to take some time, and I'm not trying to discourage you. So that's why I said short answer is yes. I think it's still worth it. I think you're going to reap those rewards. In fact, like a lot, right? But it's just not. It might not just be as fast as you think, right? So yeah.
Okay, Joy, what do you think?
Well, same thing with Josiah. Yes, it's worth it. I mean, you have to. These are some sacrifices you have to make if you want to succeed in cybersecurity. Even though it's a long term thing. Look for, if you are short in money, actively look for labs, projects, courses that are free. Actively, if you need certifications, actively look for free vouchers that people give, like communities do. If you join a community, you're active in community, like participate, you get free vouchers, like white do this,
Yeah.
black in cybersecurity do this, offsec do this. So if you are in communities like this, you can get free vouchers. And also, like what me and Chinas are on right now, the Sans Speller Scholarship, we actively looked for this scholarship, and we saw it, we applied, and we made some financial decisions, and we did it. And luckily for us, we got in. So there are two-way thing. If you have money, and you want to like fast track, your skill building, yeah, yeah, subscribe, pay for things, it actually helps. But if you are still struggling, to get all these things, just hunt hunt for free things, free quality things. Yes, and yeah, it's going to be worth it.
Okay, thank you very much, Joy. And yes, we did not hunt. We both did not hunt for Palasans. Joy did the hunting, and I just leveraged on my network, which is a very good point. Honestly, you have to leverage on your network if you're trying to get into cybersecurity or you're trying to get into any area in tech. One thing I want to add is build a lot of side projects. Yeah, build a lot of home projects. You mustn't get into a job before you build this project. And most of this, let's say you're trying to get into SOC analysis. Most of these SIM solutions have like walkthroughs. I know for Wazo, they have like walkthroughs for integration, how to build a home lab and stuff like that. You can always do things like that. So at least whilst you're looking to get into a job role, your portfolio is not empty. You have something. You have a track record that they can always look back. Documents, like documentation is very very important. And I feel like a lot of people, beginners and people that are not beginners, they have it wrong when it comes to documentation. Most people don't want to document. But in cybersecurity, if you're not in the development point of a career, let's say you're a security engineer or something, you would most likely not be interacting with GitHub. So that's where your documentation comes into play. So this can be on Medium, you can write blog posts, you can write LinkedIn articles, so that you have like a track record that recruiters can always fall back upon. So yeah, like I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, this episode, and you have these questions, then you should think about what you're currently doing and look out for ways to be better. Look out for ways to better position yourself so that eventually the money you're spending on learning cybersecurity doesn't come to a waste. So you have to put yourself out there. You have to look out for free opportunities. I don't think I don't think I paid anything to get into cybersecurity, and that's because there are a lot of that's one field in tech that there are a lot of free resources for you to leverage on. So why don't you leverage on the free resources before you go into the paid versions? I think that's something you should think about if you're listening to this podcast. Which brings me to my next question, and this question I would like Joy's perspective. Can you afford to keep learning without burning out? Now, we're not talking about finance here. We're talking about mental health. When does the learning end? When does the whole cycle of internships end? I mean, like some people get internship after internship it's like a whole cycle that doesn't end. When does it actually end? When do I feel like I'm ready to go for a job? Should I continue learning even when I feel like I don't want to learn anymore? I just need the job. What do you think? What should a person that have this question, what would you tell this person?
The person should just do it. The person should not think. The person should just do it. I remember when I asked Emmanuel this question. I was contemplating on doing another internship. Emmanuel said, "Joy, you are good enough." This was somebody that believed in me. I did not believe in myself at that time. I my imposter syndrome was high. Now it's low. It was so high at that time, and actually settled down to actually think about what he said, and that's when I knew that it was enough. That was my third internship. Yeah, this was my third internship. So yeah, there's a point in time, especially people that have not broken into cybersecurity, that you would think that okay, you need to go for scholarships and you need to go for internships to another internship to another internships. If you keep thinking like that, you're going to be in an internship cycle, and you keep on feeling like you are not good enough. You're not good enough. You're waiting for yourself to be good enough, right? And that's not good. Just once you are done with your first internship, it depends on the quality of internship, by the way. Is if your first internship is like really solid, then there's no need for you to go for a second or third. But if you still need to like validate, then I mean a second is okay. Maybe third maximum. But yeah,
Know
yeah,
when to
you
stop.
yeah, just know when to stop, because you will keep on you will keep on going into circles and circles, and other people will come and outshine you. So once you are just done with your first internship, or
Start
also
applying at
just
least.
start applying, you look at the job description, there are some skills that you see there and you do not know them. Still apply and start try to like learn the skills that are there before you get an interview or something. But apply for it anyway, prepare for an interview. When I got this my job, I was not ready. I still felt like once when I was in the interview office, I felt like, oh my god, what question would they ask me? Oh, I was like really nervous, but I mean, there's a way that my interviewer actually calmed me down. I mean, it started with simple questions first. But yeah, but that's by the way. Like once you are calm and you understand like the role you are applying for. I mean, there are questions that will ask you that, and I think that you will do well in it. So yeah, just the internship cycle, it sometimes needs to stop, and you need to like actually just tell yourself positive words about you can do better, you are this, you are that, just positive affirmations about yourself, so that you would leave you would your imposter syndrome would like reduce, dial it down. Yeah.
Josiah.
Um, so if I remember your question correctly, do I think learning ends? No, but I think that the internships and all those things, like Joy said, right? There's a point that you just have to take the bull by the horn and actually, you know, try to take on a job. And I think when you get to the point that you can successfully do independent projects, I think that's already like a telling point to say that you're able to, you know, be thrown into like the deep waters, right? And you don't have to completely have it figured out. It's like, for instance, an entry level role, right? You don't need to have as much in depth knowledge, right? But in terms of like learning in cybersecurity, I genuinely don't think that ends. I think that even senior roles in cybersecurity still learn, even, you know, high level roles and people that actually call the shots, they still have to learn and keep, because it's an industry that evolves every time, right? So you have to like make sure that your knowledge stack is your skill stack is very, very relevant to like the way the industry is going. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. To coming from a mental health point of view, um, I feel like once you're on this learning journey, you should learn to take breaks. And I think we spoke about this in the previous episode when we say if you're skill stacking, you should do that within a particular domain. Don't jump around everywhere because you're trying to get your foot into the door. Ensure that you have sufficient knowledge about a particular domain before you even consider moving to another or learning something about the next. And like Josiah said, if you can confidently build a home lab or a project by yourself, then you're ready to start applying for those jobs. Understand something that you must not be 100% aligned to the job role to apply for those jobs.
Mhm.
I give myself 60%. Once I have 60% of whatever it is you're looking for, I go ahead and apply for this job. And it's a learning curve in its own. You have interviews, you learn from interviews, you learn from the field interviews, you learn from the good interviews. So don't be scared to put your feet into the water. It might be a bit cold at first, but I'm sure you're going to get used to it. Now, for this question, I feel like we need to talk about something. And this question we have to talk about it from an honest point of view. Everywhere online, I'm mostly on Twitter, yeah, but everywhere online you're seeing the talk about the promise of high paying cybersecurity jobs. And I know we've spoken about this countless times during previous episodes, but I think it's perfect for us to highlight it again. You see headlines like there's this particular guy Abraham on Twitter always promising $120,000 for an entry level cybersecurity job. But when people start applying for these roles, the reality is almost always different. So my question is, are entry level cybersecurity salaries overhyped? Or are people just misunderstanding how the career progresses? Now, I want to start with Josiah on this one. Or should I start with Joy? I think I should start with Joy on this because I feel like she would speak about this from experience. Yeah. So, Joy, what do you think? Are entry level cybersecurity salaries overhyped, or do you think that people just misunderstand how the cybersecurity career path actually progresses?
I would say it depends on the country. How Nigeria would pay entry level different from how US would pay an entry level, how Australia would pay, it depends. So probably that person advertising it is, especially in dollars,
Mm-hmm.
probably they are pitching from like, a international country
Mm-hmm.
perspective, because entry level abroad is more high paying than entry level in Nigeria. Entry level in Nigeria, like I said earlier, your S plus certification is more than your salary. So I would just say it depends. And some people actually misunderstand this because Nigeria is not going to, you're working in Nigeria and you expect them to pay in dollars. No, no. It's when
Mm-hmm.
you're outside that you start looking at that, right? And you actually know how you negotiate your salary and everything. So probably for, actually when Nigeria actually also converts that dollar rate. Even you hear $120, already converted it to naira,
You've
and you
already
see
planned for the money that you don't
exactly.
have.
So I mean, for Nigeria, just expect low. If you have more experience, then that you start expecting high, but it still differs compared to other countries.
So is it overhyped?
So yeah, it's
It's
overhyped.
overhyped.
Yeah.
Okay. Josiah, what do you think? Do you agree with the fact that it's overhyped, or you think people just misunderstand how the career path progresses?
I think it's both.
Okay,
I
okay.
think it's
Let's hear
both.
it.
I think, I mean, I get Joy's point, but I do think that even abroad, because I mean, salaries are going to be paid based on the context of your location.
Yeah.
Even abroad, I still think entry level salaries are overhyped versus like the actual market reality. Because, like, people would, because there's this six-figure thing that, like, you are almost not going to, your first entry level role in the US, wherever, is almost never
Yes,
going to be
yes,
Never.
six
yeah,
figures.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I feel like it's overhyped in the sense that when people plaster in 120,000, dollars, $120,000 to a tweet and say, oh, learn cybersecurity, and
In three
people
months
feel like
and
that, you get my point. So I
Mhm.
think that yes, it is overhyped, and people sort of have an idea of what entry salary. And I'm not even speaking Nigeria. That's a whole different
Oh, I'm
topic, right?
speaking Nigeria.
But even abroad, to the best of my knowledge, I think it's still overhyped. Do I still the second question is if people sort of like,
Misunderstand how the career actually progresses.
yes, I think so too, because I think if you understand how cybersecurity career, this is how I'm going to approach the question. If you understand how cybersecurity career progresses, you would understand that it takes patience,
Yeah.
right? And it's not like how do I put it? Like in 2 years, you're not just going to move from entry level to like
Senior
a
level.
CISO, right? You're not going to do that for sure. It takes patience. But the good thing, kind of why I like it, is that once you get to those top positions, you're kind of very indispensable, right? And you know that you're there to stay. But I think people sort of misunderstand how fast people grow because it's cybersecurity. You're dealing with very delicate things. You're dealing with, and it takes experience for people to trust you to handle certain things,
Yeah.
and you must have handled this consistently over time.
Consistently.
And yeah, yeah. Let me just leave it at that.
And I think to add, yeah, I feel the advice I'll give to anybody is just get your foot into the door.
Hmm.
No
Because I
matter.
feel like if I start asking everybody in this room what was your first cybersecurity salary, it might be laughable to some
Please don't do
extent.
that.
So just get your foot into the door. Be more concerned about gaining industry experience and gaining the skills than the money, at least the first 2 to 3 years of your career. Over time, people are going to trust your work. They are going to trust that you can actually deliver. And then there are some certain figures that they would not bring to the table when they're speaking to you. But this cannot happen when you're just trying to get your foot into the door. And I'm speaking about this from a Nigerian point of view. I know Josiah said he's not speaking just about from a Nigerian perspective, but me, I'm doing that. The chances as an entry level cybersecurity professional that you're going to get paid higher than 400,000 naira,
Which is very ironic to me, Shao, if you think
higher
about
than,
it.
because I think security plus is like 600 plus if you convert to naira to
Mm.
write it. So imagine being paid like 300,000 naira less than what you spent for a certification. So sometimes it can be frustrating, it can be daunting too, but it is what it is. Just get your foot into the door, get the industry experience, get the required skills, and I promise you in 3 years nobody would bring 400,000 naira to your table. Nobody would. And you would not be willing to take 400. You would not consider it.
Mhm.
That speaks to the level of experience you've been able to gain in 3 years. I'm going to do this and say I'm going to come right out and say that my first salary was, I think, 250,000 naira. And right now I cannot have a conversation with somebody over 400,000 naira. You can, if you say 400,000 naira, I'll probably leave you on the call.
Mhm.
That's how petty I can be. So this is because I've gained experience. Now I'm more confident in the skills I bring to the table. I'm more confident in the value I'm bringing to your team,
Mhm.
and that means I can speak on my words. And there are some figures that you would spell out, and I'll
Mm.
tell you I'm no longer interested. I'm not interested in the opportunity. So get your foot into the door, get the experience, be willing to learn. It's not a get rich quick scheme, and that's what we've been trying to say all through season one. You cannot get in and 2 months later you're thinking about earning 600,000. Let's be honest. Just get in, gain the required skills, do the internships, know when to stop. If you have at least 6 out of 10 skills that they are looking for in the job role, apply. Flop the interview if you want to flop. If you flop the interview, ace it if you ace it. But it's all a learning journey. All we're saying is be willing to enjoy the process. It's frustrating because you're trying to get money, especially looking at the Nigerian economy and all, but learn to try to enjoy the entire process of getting to the point where you actually want to be satisfied with where you're at in your career. And this brings me to the final question, which I feel like is a very emotional question. And I think it's a fear that I had before I got my foot into the door. A lot of people are investing time, a lot of people are investing money, a lot of people are investing energy into learning, buying courses, studying for certifications, building home labs and projects. And sometimes they quietly wonder, deep within yourself, you wonder, what if after everything it doesn't work out? What if I never get that job? What if I never get that first opportunity? What if I never meet that one person that is willing to take a chance on me? I feel like it's time we talk about this fear openly because I felt this fear before I got my foot into the door, and there was literally nobody for me to speak to about it. And I feel like some of our listeners might be having this, oh, I'm spending so much time, money. I've probably been on this journey for 1 year plus, and it doesn't look like there's light at the end of the tunnel. What do you think you can say right now to that person to encourage the person and make the person feel lighter? Josiah, please.
Um, so I'm going to give this analogy, right? Which I hope I say correctly, but it kind of goes like the person that always watches the weather would never sow like the seed or never plants the seed, right? So it's hard, right? Because we can't see the future and we can't see, if how certain things will play out. But I think that if you live your life based on a what if, you're almost never going to make any progress, right? We've all had the what ifs. We still have that. I don't know about, but I still have the what ifs,
Yeah.
right? Because if you have big goals, you would definitely have a goal. What if it doesn't play out? What if this effort is a waste? And I think personally, I'm speaking from a strictly personal perspective that I don't think that would it to get to a point that that would completely go away, because the bigger you go, the bigger your goals are, the more you have bigger things you want, the more what ifs you have, and the bigger your goals, the more scary they should be to you. Right. So I think it's completely okay to have, thoughts like that. But what I would just say is if you let those thoughts completely cloud you, then you make no progress. And imagine you sit on your hands for like a year and be like, what if, what if, what if? But imagine you actually make movement for that
For
one
that
year.
one, yeah.
1 year can change a lot. Right. And then I always say this thing where you know, let it be that you tell yourself and the universe and God, right? I believe most people would be religious that are listening to this, that you did your best, right? So you know that like when opportunity comes, you're not going to now say, oh my God, like I didn't try, right? You
Mhm.
tried. Let it be that you tried your best, you did everything you needed to do, but the opportunity just didn't come. And for the opportunity to come, and then you're like not ready and things like that. So I just think that you never know till you try, and never live your life based on what ifs. If not, you're never going to make progress.
I love the point about never living your life based on what ifs. Just put your head and your back into the work, and eventually you're going to see the results. Joy, what would you like to say about this? What would you like to say to that one person that is feeling really discouraged and doesn't see this thing working out, or feels that what if this doesn't work out for
All
me?
right. So adding to what Josiah said, so hello. I hope you also have. I hope you also have other things you are doing by the side, right? Because let's say you are an independent person, you are no longer with your family, you should have other things doing outside, your passion for cybersecurity, because that is what is putting food on your table. So, right, whatever you are doing is still an added skill, an added transferable skill that you can also incorporate once you get your break, right? And also, do not look for do not apply for flashy companies, right? Apply to startups. No matter how small the pay is, there are some ridiculous prices that they would tell you, but a reasonable price, right? No matter how small that is, still do it. You know what you want to get at. You know what you want to get at from that company, the experience and everything. So, just keep going, keep believing, network with people, join communities, be active, ask questions, and write code email and stuff like that. So, that will really help in the long run. So, your hard work will pay off, basically.
Okay. Thank you so much, Josiah and Joy. And I think today's conversations has really highlighted some key things about cybersecurity. It's not just a career, yeah, it's a long-term journey, and you have to subscribe to the fact that it's a long-term journey. There will be pressure around money, there will be pressure around learning, around expectations. But the people who succeed in this industry are usually the ones who stay curious and keep learning despite all odds. So if you're listening to us right now and you're feeling that pressure, just remember that every expert in this field started right where you are now. So focus on building the skills, focus on enjoying the process, and eventually we would all raise a toast to your progress in the cybersecurity industry. And that brings us to the end of season 1 of Still Figuring Tech Out, you guys. It's been a beautiful journey from the first episode up until now. And I believe that you must have learned one or two things, one or two key nuggets about cybersecurity and tech from us. And we really do hope that you've enjoyed this journey with us. And we hope as well that we get to see you in season 2. Thank you so much, guys. Final words, Joy, Josiah, do you have anything to say to our listeners?
Yeah, I have one final thing to say, which is that, sorry, this is going to be an answer to the last question you asked, which is that, like, there were so many what ifs before we even thought about like starting the podcast, right? And we're still figuring a lot of things out, literally. So imagine that we said, oh my god, what if, and like it never happened, right? So yeah, that's my final word. My final word for you is just try, just do it, right? If it's tech, if it's cybersecurity, literally just stand up one day and actually start to do it. And a lot of things, you're going to figure out a lot of things as you continue. So yeah.
Yeah, and also thank you for listening. Like we for the listeners that have been listening, thank you. For the
Thank you.
follow, thank you. Please do not forget to follow us in on our Spotify, Apple, and please rate us as well. We really would like your feedback. And
Instagram and
also, if
TikTok.
you have like any questions, our dilemma form is there as well. You can actually just put your thoughts in any place, any thoughts for us to improve and whatnot. Just put it there. Follow us on our podcast on our Spotify, Apple, our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube. We are everywhere. So thank you again for
Thank you,
listening.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 This is Still Figuring Tech Out.